purpose of this video is to help you get set up for LAB2 and making sure that you're ready to go for the LAB2 quiz in week 3. A lot of the information that you need is here. This video will help you set up an Embed account. This is where you go to set up the Embed account. This video link here will actually allow you to see how to set up the serial driver, and this is where you go to install the serial driver. One of the things about the serial driver, you have to have the Freedom K64 plugged into your PC before you actually do the installation. And the last thing is to download and configure PuTTY as a console terminal. So let's take a look at that. Once you've installed your serial driver, you should see it under ports, COM and LPT, embed serial port, and then the actual port number. Later after this, once you have set up your SimSys app, you should see that showing up under other devices, as you can see here. Now in the announcements for all your theory and lab sections, there's a section here called PuTTY settings, and if you click here, it's going to then bring up your PuTTY settings screens. Some of the most important ones are to make sure you've checked implicit carriage return in every line feed, and under local echo you have force on. And as you go through all of these screens here, you should make sure that all the settings are set up exactly as you have on these screens. Especially for translation, should be set up to CP437, and that's going to be important later. On this particular Freedom K64, we find that it's at COM9, and we've set up all the settings that we had for terminal, window, and so forth. And once we've done that, what we can do is when we're on the session window here, we can click on default settings and say save, and all the settings that you've changed in here to make it work properly for your board will then be saved, and you do not have to set them up again. Also in your announcements, you're going to find a Hello World test program, and you can click on this link to get to it. When we do, we're going to find it going to this page here, and if we say import into compiler, it's going to allow us to import this program in. Now I've already called Hello World in here, so I'm just going to change the name. You don't have to do this, and I'm just going to say test to test out the program. Now the embed library that's here is the one that you should use for all of your embed programming. Anything that you get from embed itself is not going to work. So let's check out this program. Let's just double click here. It's going to say hello world, get char, and we're just going to say compile, and we're going to say save file. Open up the thing so we can see it, and there's our hello world, and down here you should see DAP link. So all we're going to do is we're going to grab this and we're going to slide it down and release it at DAP link, and it's going to put it into our Freedom K64. DAP link will disappear for a few seconds and then reappear. At this point we can then run it. Now if you click inside the window and then press the reset on the microcontroller, if everything's working fine, you should see a number of hello worlds. Every time you hit it, it should say hello world, hello world. Every time you hit the reset button, then your board is perfectly configured for everything you have to do for the entire semester. Now there's a problem with most of the embed libraries that you're going to get from embed itself because they just won't work. The one that I've given you here for the Hello World program here will work for any other things you're going to do in embed. For instance, if we have one here called errors on LAB2B, we double click on this, this will not work with the library that you may have gotten from embed. So how do you fix that? It's very simple. We just right mouse click and delete this particular embed library. And we know this one is always going to work, so we just right mouse click and we say copy, and then we go back up to here and we say right mouse click and paste, and then this program now, the errors one that wouldn't work before, will now work properly when we compile it, download it, and run it. And so once you get your Hello World program, make sure that any other programs you're going to use for embed, that you use this embed library, and it should say actually here documentation ready. That's how you're going to know that it's a proper library. Also later in a couple weeks we're going to have a different library that's going to be used when we export to MCO455, but for now this is the library you're going to use for all the code that you're going to have in LAB2.